You pick a video tool, build your whole workflow around it, and then find out it's not even open to the public yet. That's the real difference between FLUX 3 and Runway right now. FLUX 3 is the open weight challenger with native audio and longer clips, and Runway is the production-ready tool you can pay for today. So one of them is clearly the right call right now. Alright, so test 1, cost and pricing transparency. And I hear this objection a lot where people assume the newer, buzzier model is going to be cheaper. So you go to sign up, you want a number. And FLUX 3 just doesn't give you one, no official price, no plan page, just an early access request form, which is a real problem if you're trying to budget a project today. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. I went through every pricing page I could find, and here's what actually came back. Runway publishes a full plan breakdown. $12 a month on annual for 625 credits, up to $76 a month for 9,500 credits, and a clean API rate of 0 or 1 per credit. While FLUX 3 has zero official pricing, only third-party resellers quoting $9.80 to $59 a month that you can't verify against anything Black Forest Labs has actually confirmed. Runway takes cost and pricing transparency, and I didn't expect the gap to be this clean, because third-party FLUX 3 resellers might actually be cheaper at scale, but you can't plan a budget around numbers a vendor hasn't confirmed, so Runway wins this one on transparency alone, and that puts the score at Runway 1, FLUX 3.0. I've spent enough time inside these tools to know that a missing pricing page costs you more than a bad price does. So if a mystery paywall has ever blown up your project timeline, let me know in the comments. Okay, so test 2, video quality and prompt adherence, and Runway Gen 4.5 is sitting at number 1 on the artificial analysis leaderboard with a 1,247 ALO score, which is a real independent number. So the question is whether FLUX 3's community preference data is strong enough to actually challenge that, or if it's just early hype from people who got access and are excited about something new. Watch what happens when you put the two data sources side by side. Runway's 1,247 ELO is an independent leaderboard score, and FLUX 3's number is community reported preference, where nearly 8 in 10 head-to-head comparisons went to FLUX 3 over Runway Gen 4.5 on 10-second clips, and neither has a published apples-to-apples benchmark. So I'm calling this directionally rather than as a measured result, though a margin that wide is pretty hard to ignore. FLUX 3 takes video quality on the strength of that community preference margin, even though Runway holds the leaderboard crown, and I was expecting Runway's ELO lead to be the cleaner win. But raw viewer preference at that scale is hard to dismiss, so that ties it up at 1 apiece. Now, test 3, speed and clip length, and the number that matters here is 20 seconds. Because if your workflow needs clips longer than what a tool can generate in a single pass, you're stitching things together manually and burning time on every project. So the question is whether Runway publishes a max clip length at all, or if you're just guessing at the ceiling every time you set up a job. I couldn't find a published max clip length from Runway anywhere, while FLUX 3 specs out at 20 seconds per generation, with synchronized audio baked in, single pass, no separate audio step, and Runway does claim no slowdown, compared to Gen 4, so raw generation speed is fine, but without a published clip ceiling, you genuinely don't know what you're working with until you're already mid-project. FLUX 3 wins speed and clip length because a confirmed 20-second native audio spec beats an unpublished ceiling every time, and that puts FLUX 3 up 2-1. And the spec gap here is more practical than it looks on paper. So FLUX 3 is pulling ahead, but the two tests still coming are the ones that could actually change who you pick. because context and output limits decides whether you can build longer form work without stitching clips by hand, and deployment and modality decides whether FLUX 3's open weight promise is real enough to bet a workflow on right now, and both of those matter a lot depending on how you actually use these tools. Okay, test 4, context and output limits, and say you're building a 2-minute product demo where you need to chain multiple clips into a single coherent sequence without rebuilding the whole thing from scratch every time a shot changes. Because if a tool can't do that natively, you're doing a lot of manual stitching in post, which adds hours to every project and introduces a ton of consistency errors between shots. Here's what I found when I dug into the specs. FLUX 3 supports 20-second generations with agentic multi-shot chaining, so it can stitch clips into multi-minute sequences natively. And it accepts text, image, up to 10 reference images, audio, and video as inputs, while Runway's chaining capability and input limits are just not published anywhere I could find. So you're working blind on both counts, which is a real workflow risk at production scale. FLUX 3 takes context and output limits because confirmed multi-shot chaining with 10 reference inputs is a concrete feature lead over Runway's silence on the same question. And that moves it to FLUX 3.3, Runway 1, and the gap is getting real. Test 5, the last one, deployment and modality, and this is where the open weight promise either pays off or it doesn't. Because if you're building a local workflow or you need to run inference on your own hardware, closed cloud-only tools are a hard wall. So FLUX 3 is planning an open weight release, Runway is fully closed, and the question is whether planned is good enough to count. I ran this one twice because the picture is genuinely split. FLUX 3 is a single multimodal network covering image, video, audio, and action prediction, and FLUX 3 Dev is planned as open weight, which is a massive draw for local workflows, while Runway is fully closed but production ready right now with a cloud suite, API, and a robotics platform all live. So FLUX 3 wins the modality and open source angle, and Runway wins production readiness today. FLUX 3 wins deployment and modality on the strength of its multimodal single network design and the open weight roadmap, even though Runway is the one you can actually ship with today, and that's the final score. FLUX 3.4, Runway 1. So where does FLUX 3 clearly beat Runway? 20-second single-pass clips with native audio baked in. A spec Runway doesn't publish. Community preference at 77% in head-to-heads. A planned open weight release that gives you local workflow flexibility, and a single multimodal network that handles image, video, audio, and action prediction without switching tools. And where does Runway clearly beat FLUX 3? Verified pricing from $12 a month with a transparent API rate of 0.01 per credit. The #1 independent leaderboard spot with a 1-247 ELO score, and a fully live production suite you can sign up for right now with no early access friction. No waiting list, just go. If you need to ship video today with verified pricing and zero friction, Runway is your pick. And if you can wait for the open weight release and want 20-second native audio clips with local workflow flexibility, FLUX 3 is the one to watch. One thing nobody mentions, Runway's API costs 5 to 150 credits per second of video generated, and that range is enormous. Because at the high end of that rate, a single 10-second clip runs you $15, which you won't see on the plan page, and it's the kind of number that turns a $28 a month subscription into a much bigger bill really fast. Now, if you're also trying to figure out which AI video tool wins when both competitors are actually shipping, I did a full breakdown on Cdance 2.5 versus WAN, which is a really interesting matchup because the cost structure flips depending on how much volume you're running, and that video is up next, and it's worth a look.